All right, guys, the title of this video is Most Black People Don't Know This. Now, I'm black. I'm a person. Let's see if I know this or not. All right, guys, the title of this video is Most Black People Don't Know This. Now, I'm black. I'm a person. Let's see if I know this or not. Before I start the video, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. I'm almost to 1,000. That's the goal, so help get me there. Now, without further ado, let's start it.
So I think in the majority of cases, abortion is a cop-out. And the reason I think this is because 40% of women that get an abortion have had 2 or more.
She's been speaking for 5 or 4 seconds, and I could already tell. You could already tell a lot of women hate her. A lot of women do not like her perspective. You don't see girls talking like this often.
They're not tracking which women are going to get abortions in the future, so arguably that number could be higher, right? And we have so many different forms of birth control, right? We have condoms, we have IUDs, we have that thing that they put in your arm that are 99.5% effective, 98. This guy wanted to argue 98%. That's still pretty effective, right? So we have all these ways that we can prevent pregnancies, and if you still get pregnant, it's a cop-out for your poor decision.
I mean, I don't completely disagree, but I don't know if I completely agree.
Generally speaking, I would agree with her. You got to take accountability for your actions. Men know what happened when they spill their seed. Women know what happens when they open their legs and allow a man to do so. Both parties got to take accountability.
Either.
Okay.
A lot of people argue that, okay, so what about people who are financially unable to look after the child, or they, are raped, or things of this nature? I know that that's a minority.
This is one misconception, is that poor people get abortions at higher rates than richer people. So actually only 8% of women below the poverty line are getting abortions, where 1 out of 3 women that make $47,000 per year or more are getting an abortion. Okay. So it's the majority.
Now, isn't that interesting? When you hear pro-abortion activists speak, they'll say things commonly like this affects the what do they like to say? The minority. This affects the lower class most, but women making $47,000 and up get the most abortions. They can afford the babies. They're still getting the most abortions.
The majority of the women that are getting these abortions can't afford it.
Right. Okay.
And so to me, it's like, if you make $47K a year, you can afford condoms, right? So it seems like the majority are just, it's a fail-safe for a poor reproductive choice that you made.
So then why do you think abortion is pushed so much? Why do you think it's something that is like really heavily pushed by the media, by certain influencers, and we see it so much nowadays, especially as a younger generation?
Why is that? That's a good question. Type it in the comments below.
Honestly, I think so. This is something a lot of people don't know about. Do you know what are Planned Parenthood's roots in the U.S.?
Yeah, I do. Racism.
Yeah, and so I think there's a group of elites. This is a conspiracy. I know the comments are going to be like, this part is conspiracy, but I think there's a group of elites that believe in population control.
Absolutely.
And I think that's why they're doing it. And that's why 80% of Planned Parenthoods in the U.S. are in minority communities. The black population in the U.S. would be double today if it was. Yeah, she referred to black people.
Margaret Singer, the population will be doubled today. Is that all? Is that a coincidence? Don't feel wrong for questioning if you think that's a coincidence or not. These are the type of things you got to think about.
People as weeds. And so it's like, if Nike was founded by a racist, people would be on the streets. Why is this okay? Especially when Margaret Sanger's grandson, they talk about how they want to market it to minority women. Yep. And they talk about how they make it a woman of color issue. And like
it's a woman of color issue. So it sounds like these people are saying the quiet part out loud. And that makes it even more disappointing that people don't hear this information.
That's how they market it to minority. Her project is called the N-Word Project. Her grandson is still doing it. He's in New York. He was the head of Planned Parenthood in all of New York, and he was interviewed about Roe versus Wade, and he uses the same language, like this affects women of color, when anyone can get an abortion. It's not specific.
This affects women of color. They eat it up. You go out, you see them protesting. Little do they know. Useful pawns, useful idiots.
I think that's something a lot of people should know about, the roots of Planned Parenthood, especially when it ties to race and minority populations in America. A lot of people will say that removing the choice to get an abortion is an infringement on women's rights, and that it's going to keep kind of coming after women's rights and that kind of thing. So it kind of brings in the feminist movement with, are they going to go after women's votes? Are they going to go after women being able to do this and do that? So what do you think about that in terms of a women's rights perspective?
What about the child's rights? It's like, I think the child's rights, at conception, there's a unique DNA sequence that's different from the mother and the father's, right? That DNA sequence has the eye color, hair color, personality traits. And in China, you see something where they're aborting women. That's because of the one-child policy. So what about those women? So, and that's the problem with abortion, is it becomes a slippery slope to eugenics, where a lot of the arguments I hear people make are something along the lines of poor people shouldn't live and shouldn't be alive, when everyone on earth is richer than most people were in all of human history. You know, by that logic, no one should be.
I think a lot of people also get caught up with the whole point of life discussion. So a lot of people who are kind of pro-life will say that as soon as the sperm and the egg kind of come together, that is somewhat a form of life starting. But there seems to be this kind of, as you said, like slippery slope.
Yeah, that's conception. That's conception. Sperm meets the egg, things start happening. Next thing you know, you got a baby. That's conception. That's the moment it all started. You weren't, obviously you're not the baby that came out at that point. You're not as fully developed, but life got to start somewhere.
That's where life starts. And I personally don't demonize those who are pro-life or pro-choice, because I think they both come from a point of, like, I see where they're coming from, both sides. But I feel like one side gets heavily demonized and the conversation just gets completely skewed.
That's why I didn't want to answer you over there. Because as soon as I say pro-life, nobody wants to hear anything. Which isn't, it's not really fair. Because another thing is, a lot of people, I think if they saw what abortions looked like, they wouldn't be cool with it. They pull off the limbs one by one. They crush the head and they vacuum it out for surgical abortions. Yeah, and if they did that to puppies, people would be in uproar.
Very true. Yeah,
Oh, wow. That's a great point. That is a great point. If you heard, if we start hearing articles in the news about puppy abortions, how they crushing puppy babies in the womb, all of these same people that's out there preaching and marching and spitting in people's faces and disrespecting people over these abortion rights, it'll be even worse. People care more about dogs than they care about actual human babies. It's sad.
Because when it's a human.
Yeah, and this isn't something, and a lot of people say, oh, you know, as men, we shouldn't have an opinion on this kind of stuff. Yeah. So I think interesting.
Yeah, pardon my French, but that's bullshit. That's bullshit. You helped to create that baby. As a man, you have the right to have your input.
You as a woman who, you know, seems to kind of have a fork in the discussion is giving your opinion, because if I was here with this, no one would bother listening to me. But as women, I think it's important that women have this discussion amongst themselves and try to like have a dialogue that kind of looks at both sides of the spectrum. But I think the last 2 weeks with the whole Roe v. Wade thing, you couldn't escape it.
A problem with women too, I think there's a lot of women that agree with what she's saying, but they won't come out on social media and say it. They won't come out amongst their friend groups and say it. They might not even come out with their family and say it, because they're afraid of that judgment, that backlash, people judging them.
Like, I wasn't exactly sure where I was with it, because, again, I'm not going to say I'm pro-life or pro-choice. I think there are some situations where I don't blame a woman for getting an abortion. Again, if she's underage and she's and that kind of, I get that. But when it is used as a form of contraception, as you said, that most people get 2 or more, that to me just seems like it's a sort of contraception, and that is something that I don't think a lot of people know about. If they knew that abortion was used as a form of contraception, maybe the discussion would be a bit different, I think.
We need someone to come and frame the question. We need someone to come and frame it that way. Abortion used as contraception, because that's what it is. If like she said, if you're having more than 2, an abortion is supposed to be an emergency procedure. It's not supposed to. It shouldn't be happening as much as it's happening now. That's for sure. So that the proof is in the pudding that people are using it, women are using it for convenience.
Do you know what hypergamy is?
I've heard the term, but I can't tell exactly what it is.
Hypergamy is basically like women date across and up hierarchies. And so a girl wants to know when she has a kid, that's the best I can do. So that's why you see a lot of girls chasing after rich guys trying to get their kids, right? And to me, abortion is the ultimate form of hypergamy because she's saying, this isn't the best I could do. Because if a girl's really into you, she is not aborting that kid.
Okay.
You couldn't pay her to.
Okay, fair enough. That's interesting. I mean, I can't speak.
No one's aborting Steph Curry's kid.
Exactly.
No one's aborting.
That's it.
Wow. No one's aborting Steph Curry's kid. That's right, though. That's a great point. Who's aborting Steph Curry's kid? I'll wait.
Interesting part of the conversation, how finance, how economics, how social status plays a part into it. I get that. That makes a lot of sense. A lot of people say things like, oh, especially me as a man, you know, you're not carrying the child. You know, you can't say whatever. I think you may have a point there as well. I mean, again, I would love to play devil's advocate to what you're saying, but everything you're kind of saying are things I've thought myself, but I don't say publicly per se, because until now. But again, when I found out the roots of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, eugenics, reducing the black population, that's something that I can't ignore.
I guarantee you, the majority. I would put money on the line and say 95% of the people advocating for abortion, all in this pro-choice camp, don't know about the origins of it. I would argue.
Right, so a lot of black people should know this kind of stuff. A lot of minority people should know this stuff about where the whole push for abortion came from, especially in our communities. You know,
yeah. Like I'm sorry to even bring, you know, Trump into this, but all the hate that minorities have for Trump, you know, parents telling their kids that they got to vote for Trump, people telling their coworkers, you know, fighting and losing friendships and family over stuff like this. Why aren't you telling your kids about people like Margaret Sanger?
It's not something that we should just willy-nilly go along with. Do your research, find things out for yourself. Don't just go along with what the media and everyone's telling you, because history will say something different.
And that's the crazy thing is I don't understand why people don't freak out about this information. Like, and it's the same people running.
They don't know it.
The organizations. Like, it's not like it's a new people. And a lot of times the arguments you hear about abortion are honestly a form of eugenics, which indicate that people of lower IQ should be exterminated. People that are poor should be exterminated. I don't think people know that's what they're arguing, but when they start to bring out, well, she can't afford those kids. Well, most people are richer today than they ever could have been in human history. Poor people have well, not in the UK. Y'all don't have air conditioning here.
I mean, the price of things have went up, so you kind of got to think about that proportionally. Like, yeah, we got more stuff than ever before. I agree, we got more opportunity now than ever. I was just thinking about this, actually. I think if the people of the past were here today, they would make much. Even though we're doing a lot with the opportunities we have, I think they would do even more.
But poor people have smartphones. Nobody in history could have had that.
Right. Okay, so in terms of the whole kind of discussion around abortion and that, so I'm guessing you're American.
Yeah, I am.
Do you think there's a difference between how Americans view the conversation and how British people view the conversation?
I think people are more left. Like, people are a lot more pro-choice here, in my experience. Like, people are more, like, angry.
More angry?
Yeah, about it. Like, when I bring this sign out, I'm, like, more scared here.
Oh, really?
I'm not. I mean, it's fine, but, like, it's just, I find that, like, there's more people that agree with me in the U.S.
Interesting.
It depends where you are, though. If I went to LA, that would probably be a different.
Absolutely. I mean, again, I think the whole kind of thing with pro-choice and pro-life is a bit, again, even to me that's a bit skewed, because pro-choice is, okay, everyone should have a choice in life, I suppose. Everyone should have a choice to do whatever they want, right? And then you got pro-life is basically saying, I want these children to live. And I don't know, I feel like it's not exactly fair, because if you're pro-life, it's like, oh, you're the most extreme person ever, we cancel you, put you out of any sort of like civil discourse. But then if you're pro-choice, you can be pro-choice, but for the most part, still want the child to live on most occasions. So you can actually be pro-choice, but have more in common with someone who's pro-life than...
That's a good point. I like this dude. Great person to interview.
Someone who's really like, oh, pro-abortion, yeah, get it all the time. So I feel like even that is still a bit skewed. I don't think it's a fair point to kind of, you know.
You know what's a crazy stat too? Do you know when abortion's legal here?
What, when or why?
Like how long?
How long? It's not been that long. I believe in Northern Ireland it's still not.
No, I meant like how long, like far along I can get an abortion in a pregnancy.
Oh.
It's like 24.
I actually really enjoyed talking to these two people because they were just very open to like listening and learning. And I really enjoy conversations where I feel like I'm learning from them. They're learning from me. We're both open to different ideas. And it's not just a heated debate or, you know, I believe what I believe regardless of any facts, data, or statistics.
24 weeks. Yeah, 20.
That's what? How many months is that?
6 months.
Oh.
So no, do you know the earliest child that survived birth? Like survived
Probably like 4, 5 months or something like that.
yeah, 21 weeks, and it's legal up to 24.
Yeah. See,
So some of these kids like could hypothetically survive.
could be real living people, breathing people. So that to me, again, I can't. After you saying that, I can't pretend like that sits right with me.
Yeah.
It doesn't, and I don't think a lot of people knowing 5 months along, 6 months along, then you terminate the pregnancy. Only in situations where the mother could die.
Yeah, most pro-lifers would agree with when it's the life of the mother. Most pro-lifers would agree.
I can understand that. But if there's not a true health risk going on, I would really struggle to find peace with somebody doing that. I really would. So.
Oh, that's it. All right, guys. Well, yeah, that was a good conversation. That was interesting. Shout out to the people that were interviewed. Shout out to Pearly for asking the good questions and pushing the conversation in a good direction. I think I said a lot already. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe on the way out. Get me to 1K. I'd appreciate it. Till next time, you guys. Peace.